For thousands of years, human life followed a single rhythm. Not created by man, but by the world itself. The sun decided everything. When to wake. When to work. When to rest. Morning didn't begin instantly. It arrived slowly, spreading light across the land. A small village, quiet, unchanged, alive. Inside, the day begins in silence. A candle is lit. Not for comfort, but for necessity. Time isn't measured here. It's felt. Through light. Through movement. Through need. Hands begin their work. Dough is shaped. Tools are crafted. Everything is made, by hand. Nothing is instant. Everything takes time. Outside, the land demands effort. Farmers move slowly across the fields. The soil is heavy. The work, unforgiving. Animals pull. Humans endure. There are no shortcuts. Only effort, and patience. At the center of the village, life gathers. People trade what they've made. Everything is local. Everything is limited. Nothing moves fast. Because nothing can. Nearby, a river flows. Steady. Unstoppable. A wooden wheel turns with it. Power, not created, but borrowed. If the water stops, everything stops. On the road, progress struggles forward. A cart sinks into mud. Rain falls. Movement slows, distance becomes effort. Time stretches. And then, the light fades. The world grows quiet. A family gathers. A simple meal. A small flame. No noise. No rush. Only presence. Outside, silence returns. And life continues, not in hours, but in seasons. Again. And again. For generations, this was enough. Until, everything changed. Rocket. But slowly, something began to shift. The world started to move faster. At the ports, everything changed. Ships arrived. Goods multiplied. Voices grew louder. Movement replaced stillness. Trade was no longer local. It was expanding. In growing towns, the rhythm felt different. Faster steps. Louder streets. Constant motion. People no longer waited. They moved. They rushed. They chased opportunity. And with it, something new emerged. Value. A man counts coins. Quickly. Again, and again. Time now mattered. Speed, mattered. Profit, mattered. Inside small workshops, work continued, but something felt different. The same hands, moving faster. The same tools, used more often. Production was no longer enough. Demand was growing. And it wasn't slowing down. More people. More work. More pressure. The rhythm was changing. Soon, the cracks began to appear. A weaver waits. No thread. No progress. Frustration builds. The old system can't keep up. It was never built for this. Then, something new appears. A machine. Simple. Wooden. But faster than any hand. Relentless. Unstoppable. For the first time, work begins to change. People gather around it. Some amazed. Some uncertain. Some afraid. Because this feels different. The machine doesn't tire. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't stop. And suddenly, everything accelerates. Workshops grow. Machines multiply. Noise replaces silence. Production begins to scale. Faster than ever before. And with every moment, the old world fades. On one side, peace. Simplicity. Stillness. On the other, speed. Noise. Change. Two worlds, colliding. And only one of them is about to survive. Fire. And then, everything changed. The first factories appeared. Not homes. Not workshops. Something new. Built for production. Built for scale. Inside, the world felt different. Darker. Louder. Heavier. Machines moved, together. Relentless. Precise. For the first time, work had a new rhythm. Not human. Mechanical. Gears turned. Belts pulled. Threads raced forward. Faster than any hand could follow. And the machines never stopped. Workers tried to keep up. Faster hands. Longer hours. But it wasn't enough. Because the machine didn't slow down. It didn't rest. It didn't care. And slowly, control began to shift. From human to machine. Factories expanded. Rows of identical systems, stretching endlessly. Dozens, then hundreds, working in perfect sync. Production exploded. Beyond anything the world had ever seen. But this power came from somewhere. Deep underground, men carved into the earth. Coal. Black. Heavy. Endless. The fuel of a new world. Darkness below, power above. And then, the turning point. Steam. Engines breathed like living things. Pistons moved with unstoppable force. Energy, no longer borrowed from nature. Now, it was controlled. Unlimited. For the first time, humans were no longer bound by wind, or water, or muscle. And everything accelerated. Factories grew. Smoke filled the sky. The air changed. The world became heavier. Darker. Cities began to form around this power. Crowded. Noisy. Restless. People moved faster. Lived closer. Worked harder. The old world was disappearing. And from above, the transformation became undeniable. Endless factories. Endless smoke. No silence. No stillness. No nature. Only industry. Only motion. Only machines. The rhythm of life had been replaced. And there was no going back. The world as it once existed. And then, the world didn't just change. It expanded. Human hands began to reshape the land itself. Rivers were redirected. Earth was carved open. Canals stretched across the landscape, cutting through fields that once stood untouched. This was no longer adaptation. This was control. Water became a pathway. Heavy cargo moved with ease. What once took days, now moved faster. More efficiently. More reliably. And with it, the world grew closer. But this was only the beginning. Iron rails began to spread. Across hills, across valleys, across entire nations. Men worked relentlessly. Hammering. Building. Connecting. And then, something extraordinary appeared. A machine, on wheels. The first locomotive. Steam burst into the air. Metal groaned. And slowly, it moved. For those watching, it wasn't just a machine. It was the future, arriving. Then it accelerated. Faster than anything before it. Cutting through the land. Breaking the limits of distance. Speed was no longer a dream. It became reality. Cities that once felt far apart were suddenly connected. Hours replaced days. Distance lost its meaning. And as movement increased, so did everything else. Ports transformed. Ships grew larger. Stronger, powered not by wind, but by steam. Cargo moved faster than ever before. Trade became global. Constant. Unstoppable. And the cities, they exploded. What once were small towns, became endless urban landscapes. Buildings multiplied. Smoke filled the sky. Streets overflowed with people. Movement became constant. The world never stood still. But something else emerged. Not just workers. Not just labor. A new class. A different life. Inside clean, quiet homes, comfort existed. Warm light. Soft furniture. Space to breathe. A life untouched by the chaos outside. For some, the new world meant opportunity, growth, comfort. But for others, nothing had changed. And in that contrast, the truth became clear. Two worlds, existing side by side. One of progress. One of struggle. One of comfort. One of survival. The same system, but not the same reality. Because progress was never equal. And as the world moved forward, that divide only grew wider. The world had changed. But not everyone understood how, or why. In quiet rooms, far from the noise of factories, people began to ask questions. What had we created? And more importantly, what had it created in us? Ideas were written, debated, challenged. For the first time, humanity tried to understand a force it could no longer control. Because this was no longer just about machines. It was about society itself. Outside, something else was happening. Workers were no longer alone. They stood together. Not as individuals, but as a collective force. For years, they had endured. Silently, but silence was breaking. Voices rose. Steps aligned. Crowds formed. And the streets began to change. Protests. Marches. Resistance. For the first time, the system was being challenged. Not by nature. But by the people inside it. And when they were met with resistance, the tension grew. This was no longer just progress. It was conflict. A new kind of battle. Not fought with weapons, but with control. And while society struggled to adapt, technology kept moving forward. Unstoppable. Steam gave way to something new. Cleaner, faster, more powerful. Electricity. A single switch, and darkness disappeared. Night was no longer an end. It became an extension of the day. Cities no longer slept. They glowed. Alive at all hours. Movement never stopped. Work never stopped. The rhythm of life had changed completely. And with it, something else emerged. Consumption. For the first time, people didn't just produce. They bought. Shops filled with goods. Shelves overflowing. Choices everywhere. Abundance became normal. And behind it all, machines worked endlessly. Assembly lines replaced craftsmanship. Precision replaced individuality. Speed replaced care. Everything became faster, more efficient, more identical. At the same time, the world itself was shrinking. Messages traveled instantly. Across cities. Across countries. Across oceans. What once took weeks, now took moments. Trade expanded. Connections multiplied. The world became one system. Interconnected. Interdependent. And as everything accelerated, so did the scale. Cities grew beyond imagination. Steel and smoke filled the horizon. Light stretched endlessly into the distance. What once were villages, became megacities. What once was quiet, became constant. But something was lost. Somewhere along the way, nature began to disappear. Fields turned into concrete. Forests gave way to factories. Rivers no longer flowed clean. The balance had shifted. And yet, life continued. Faster than ever, people moved with urgency. Schedules replaced seasons. Clocks replaced the sun. The natural rhythm was gone. In its place, a new rhythm emerged. One defined by machines. By systems. By speed. And slowly, a new dependency formed. Humans no longer worked with tools. They worked for systems. Surrounded by machines, guided by them, dependent on them. The world we built began to shape us. And it didn't stop. Speed increased. Distance disappeared. Time compressed. Everything became immediate. Everything became now. But progress never comes without a shadow. Above the cities, smoke still rises. The air still carries the weight of what was built. The consequences never truly left. They evolved. And now, we live inside that legacy. A world of incredible power. Unimaginable convenience. Endless connection. But also, fragility. Dependence. And imbalance. So we pause. For just a moment. And look at what stands before us. A world built in just a few centuries, on the back of a single shift. From nature, to machine. From slow, to fast. From human, to system. The past and present blur together. Because this world did not appear overnight. It was built. Piece by piece. Choice by choice, generation by generation. And now, we are its continuation. Its result. Its consequence. We are the descendants of that first spark. That first machine. That first decision to move faster than nature allowed. The Industrial Revolution did not just change how we live. It changed what it means to be human. And even now, the question remains. Did we create the machine, or did it create us? Because revolutions don't arrive loudly. They begin quietly. And by the time we notice, everything is already different. And there is no going back.